It's a rainy day in a city in China, and while people are going about their lives, two radio hosts tell stories about unrequited love and loneliness. They receive calls from listeners asking for advice. One of the callers says that it's her birthday and that she's feeling lonely, that if it wasn't for the radio show, she would have given up. To comfort the sad girl on the phone, the male host says that there's this place that he wants to go with his sweetheart, because it's a beautiful place with snowy mountains and golden meadows. He turns to the female hostess and while staring deeply into her eyes he says that he wants to tell his sweetheart that residing in any place, but her heart is like dying in a foreign land. The hostess doesn't seem comfortable at all, not that the host notices. They are Sean and Amy. Besides working together, they have also been a couple for years. Although Sean seems to be deeply in love with Amy, she isn't in the same place, and hearing him say what he said to the girl made her snap. She turns to him and without a preamble, she breaks up with him, saying that the reason for breaking up with him is that Sean is a great host talking about love, but he's a terrible lover in real life. The real reason, though, is because she wants to change her life and feels as if she's stagnated with Sean after so many years together. He obviously doesn't share her feelings because he gets upset with her because she seemed fine and he hadn't noticed that she was unhappy in the relationship. After all, she never said anything. To make things worse, before Amy broke up with him, Sean accidentally turned his mic back on during a song, so everyone listening to the radio that day heard Amy breaking up with him and calling him a bad lover. He's embarrassed and angry, so after fixing the mic, he storms out of the radio. Sean is a laid-back guy that can have a bit of a temper and scream more than it's needed in certain situations. He and Amy had been together since college, and he planned to marry her in the future. She was it for him. So her breaking up with him so suddenly affects him more than he cares to share. Still, he's heartbroken and miserable, and his bad feelings reflect on his work. Before, people looked forward to hearing his show because he always said words of warmth and comfort to whoever called him. After the breakup, though, he stops talking about love and starts talking about heavy subjects, such as death, and playing very loud rock songs that almost no one enjoys. To make his life even more miserable and tragic, his mother, who has Alzheimer's, is getting worse each day. She can barely remember him and she can't be by herself anymore, because she can get hurt. His mother resides alone, though his cousin, Max Shiba, looks out for her when he can. Max is a very creative and clumsy handsome young man, who likes to invent useless things using his creativity and dreamy imagination. He's also unemployed and depends on Sean to pay all his bills, food and housing. Because he's so prone to destroy things with his crazy inventions, he catches the eye of a pretty police officer, a woman called Leah. She always keeps an eye on him, mocking him when his inventions don't work and running after him when he accidentally explodes things in the middle of the city. Being so into his own head and his inventions, he doesn't realize that Leah is actually infatuated with him. That's why she follows him everywhere he goes, even when she's working. Another friend of Sean's is Sam, his best friend from college. Like the other two, his life is also a mess, though not necessarily by his fault. He's a hard worker and can do whatever is necessary to have some extra money. The issue is that all the money he gets from his odd jobs he sends to his girlfriend of 8 years that is overseas. His girlfriend, Yanzai, is very pretty, she looks like a model, and he works to pay for her lavish lifestyle apart from him. Not that Sam cares. They met when they were in college and Sam had a massive crush on her, and when she was accused of stealing money from her roommate, she was ostracized and Sam came to her rescue. Ever since then, they have been dating, though Yanzai spends more time away than with him. The three men are close to each other because they are always together, though not by choice. Sean helps Sam and Max with money, since they are both really broke, and they all reside together in Sean's apartment. Since Sean and Amy broke up, he needs to find another hostess to work with him. No one but one person wants to work with him at the station, a young pretty woman named Emma, who has a massive crush on him. At first look, Emma seems like a quiet and shy girl, with hidden smiles and a calm voice. However, during her first day, one of the radio listeners calls Sean names, which makes Emma so angry that she calls him out for being lazy with his relationship and thinking badly about his wife when he was the one in the wrong. She yells at the man for a minute while Sean stares at her, confused that such a cute and shy girl could be so harsh with her words. When the call ends, Emma realizes that she just lost her temper in front of her new colleague and crush. She fumbles with the headphones and quietly apologizes to Sean, who still stares at her as if she has two heads. Later, she tries to offer some noodles as an apology, but Sean is suspicious of her and thinks Amy sent her there to mess with him and his show. Because he's so resentful of Amy, he takes his anger out on Emma and angrily tells the poor girl to get lost. What Sean never expected is that Emma's outburst would raise his audience. When Emma returns to work with him the following day, Sean tells her to keep doing what she did the day previous, because he liked it. Emma is confused and thinks he's being sarcastic, but he is absolutely serious. Emma is so happy that he liked her impassioned rant that she starts doing cartwheels while Sean watches. His first impression of her wasn't good, but seeing her so happy because of his compliment strikes a chord with him, who is so used to being chastised all the time. Moving on to Sam, he's really happy talking to his long-distance girlfriend and showing his new tattoo, a pig with wings. He's living in a bunk bed at Sean's apartment while she's staying at an expensive hotel paid by him. He's so in love with her that he doesn't care when she complains or belittles him. In fact, he's saving money to buy an apartment where they can happily be together. Back at the station, Amy compliments Emma for her work with Sean and tries to make her work for her instead. Sean overhears the conversation and gets mad at Amy, accusing her of trying to steal Emma. As for Emma, she's back to her shy and quiet personality, and she thinks that she has no talent to be stolen from Sean. Sean is so angry at Amy that he decides to bet that in a month he will have the highest ranking in the station, and if he wins, he will marry Amy. Amy doesn't think the bet is funny. She calls Sean immature and tells him that if she wins, he will have to parade around wearing a sign that says "I am an idiot." Sean says he doesn't care at all, and that when he wins, he will make clear to everyone that she would suffer domestic violence. Emma, who is watching the whole interaction, doesn't know what to think of Sean, especially not when they go home together and she sees him interacting with his mother in a loving and caring way. It's confusing because at one moment he's loud, brash, and with a mouth too big for his own good, and then he's nice and warm in the way he used to be on his show, before Amy broke up with him. The following day, at the station, Emma acts completely different from her first day. She fumbles when answering the calls and Sean has to take the lead again, which is not great because he's still not out of his breakup funk. After the show, they go out together and Sean asks what happened. Emma explains that she usually doesn't talk back to people, but that day the man had called Sean names, so she felt the need to defend him. Of course, Sean has no idea that she really likes and admires him. That's why she was so quick to come to his defense, even if it goes against her nature to do so. During their trip back home, he tries to make her angry again by saying that she's an ugly girl with no self-confidence. But Emma doesn't defend herself or get mad at him. Instead, she agrees with everything he says. Sean keeps trying to make her talk like she did on her first day to no avail. The only way for her to lose her hidden temper again is to offend Sean, her crush. Moving forward to Max, he runs again from Leah, and this time she catches him. She asks why he's running and he tells her that he's afraid of her. She starts asking him questions about his life, including how many relationships he had. When he asks her back, she gets serious and tells him that she almost got married, but the guy stood her up. Leah hates lies, that's why she likes Max so much. He's honest and never tells a lie. The three friends are having issues in their relationships. Sean is clearly still in love with Amy, though he pretends to hate her and acts obnoxiously whenever they interact. Max likes Leah and at the same time, he's scared of her and what she could mean to him. Sam fell in love with a pretty, but vain girl, who only uses him for money. Max starts dating Leah and she works to support his creative lifestyle. Sean and Emma are still having trouble finding her inner angry beast, and Sean is frustrated because he's going to lose his bet. One day, though, Emma gets sick, and with her sickness comes her annoyance and her temper. She starts talking back at the people calling the radio in a dry and sarcastic way. Sean also helps with the audience by being honest instead of using cliché sentences to answer the listeners. Unfortunately, Emma starts feeling bad and they have to cut it short and go to the hospital. Sean stays with her, and when she's hallucinating from a high fever, she tells him there's a place she wants that she heard is beautiful. What Sean doesn't realize is that she heard about that place from one of his monologues on the radio, which can only mean that she has liked him for a long time. Sean loses the bet because of the day he took Emma to the hospital and didn't finish his show. He parades around wearing the sign saying "I'm an idiot" with a big smile on his face. He's happy because even though they left in the middle, they still ended up second in the ranks, so if they do an entire show with Emma's dry sense of humor, they would definitely be first place, which belongs to Amy. The following day, Sam's girlfriend, Sophia, arrives in China, clueless to the surprise engagement party that Sam is preparing for her. Sean invites Emma to the party, but Amy is also there, so he keeps glancing at her and Emma notices. The once happy party turns into a funeral when Sophia tells Sam that the only reason she came back to China was to break up with him. The party continues with Sam and Sophia pretending that everything is alright, but after the party, Sam has an outburst and fights with Sean after he offended Sophia. Their friends break up the fight, but it's obvious Sam is sad and upset about Sophia leaving him. When it's time for her to go, Sophia tells her to be happy, but as he watches the car going away with her inside, not knowing if he will ever see her again, he can't hold back anymore. He runs after the car screaming his head off that he can't be without her. Sophia doesn't look back. After his breakup with Sophia, Sam leaves without telling anyone. Some time after Sam leaves, Leah tells Max she wants to marry him in the middle of a robbery, and he starts to seriously think about proposing. He asks Sean for help, since Sean had planned to propose to Amy, and even had a whole scrapbook with marriage ideas. At the same time, Amy is having trouble financially after she has made a bad deal with her manager. Her car is being hoisted to pay for her debts when Sean, out of nowhere, hits it with his car, hurting himself in the process. He does it so that he can give her money as insurance. He even mortgaged his house to pay it off. After the accident, Sean and his friends, including Emma, go on a trip to the city Emma had mentioned before. Max is planning to propose to Leah there, using Sean's proposal plans, and everyone is going to help. Max brings Leah to a clearing surrounded by pine woods and a snow-capped mountain in the background, and in the middle of it, there's a cardboard church. There, Max proposes to Leah and she says yes. Meanwhile, Emma and Sean watch it. Emma tells Sean that if someone proposed to her like that, she would say yes. As for Sean, he watches his perfect proposal plan play out exactly like he dreamed, with the exception that the woman he loved wasn't there with him. Later that day, Sean and Max are talking when they see Sam appear on TV. He has opened a food truck that sells cheap food for war refugees. He's not making any money. In fact, it seems he's making Sophia's favorite food to sell as a way to cope with his heartbreak. Sean wonders if it's worth it changing your whole life for a woman, and Max says it is. Next day, Emma and Sean find a small village where a celebration is happening. Emma starts dancing with the inhabitants and Sean stares at her. They have a lot of fun together, and at night, they watch the stars while lying down beside each other. In the solitude of the night, Emma asks Sean if he wants to come back to that same place in a year to watch the stars together. Sean doesn't answer her. It's time for their show to start, so they move places to listen to it. Amy is replacing them, and surprisingly, she starts to tell their love story on the radio. When they were still in college, they were hosts together at the university's radio station, and that's how they met. Their love started with a bet, and if he won, they would date. If she won, he would parade around campus using a sign saying "I'm an idiot." They both won, despite Sean losing, because Amy agreed to date him. Sean was always a great host. He told great stories that brought warmth to the people, but one day, he suddenly stopped. Amy says that at first, she didn't understand why he changed so much, until she realized that he couldn't talk about love to listeners without being in love. Emma calls the station so that Sean can talk to Amy once and for all. The call is silent. Sean doesn't say anything. He gets angry that Amy did something like that, and starts ranting to Emma, not noticing she's crying. When he realizes and asks her why, she tells him she's crying for herself, because the person she fell for isn't able to love anyone. She abruptly leaves the car, and when he starts pestering her to come back, she screams that he has no idea how many people got through their problems because of him and his stories. She questions why he can't get through his own problems. After all, he was dumped, but that can happen to anyone. She calls him selfish and weak because he's always acting as if his problems are worse than everyone else's. Sean tries to apologize, but Emma is not having it. She walks until her head clears, then she tells Sean that she will help him marry Amy so that he can hurt her whenever he wants. Back to their normal lives, Sean finds a flash drive containing Emma's job interview and starts watching it. Emma says that when she came to that city, she felt lonely and scared. She couldn't go out in the city, so she stayed at home and listened to the radio. It was the only company she had, and she could only go to sleep listening to Passing Through Your World, Sean's show. The host brought comfort and joy to Emma. Then, at the convenience store she worked at, there was a wall where she drew herself and her dream for the future, and one day, when it was raining a lot, a guy appeared and drew an umbrella in her drawing. She found out later on that the guy was actually the host that presented her favorite radio show. On her birthday, she called the radio to say she was feeling alone. Sean told her there was a place he wanted to go with the girl he loved that had a bright blue sky, snowy mountains, and golden meadows. Before he could continue talking, Amy interrupts and says she wants to break up with him. Emma says that from that day on, Sean changed, and she feels like the reason they broke up was because she called him. Feeling guilty and wanting to help Sean, she decided to try for the job. When Sean finishes watching the interview, he feels lost. There is a girl that actually saw him, that wanted to be with him, and he wasn't even aware of it. To make things worse, Emma had promised to help him with Amy. She actually plans a surprise for her with Max's help, a projector showing all the good moments between Amy and Sean during their relationship. Amy is surprised and a little moved. When Sean appears, they stare at each other for some time, but there's no spark there anymore. Meanwhile, Emma watches them reunite as longtime lovers and thinks they will be together for sure. It hurts, after all, she changed her whole life because of Sean. Amy hugs Sean tightly, and after some hesitation, he hugs her back. Not wanting to see the guy she loves with the woman he's supposedly in love with anymore, Emma leaves. Unbeknown to Sean, she goes to his mother's house to tell her to take care of herself, because Emma won't be able to anymore. Then, she leaves for good. Back to Sean and Amy, they start talking about their relationship and what went wrong. For Sean, love is enough, but for Amy, being with the right person matters more. She tells him that she wants to enjoy her life in the way she didn't when she was younger, because they started dating so early. Amy gives back the money from the insurance that Sean had given her from the car, and they decide to be friends again after a much-needed closure. And Sean finally understands what she meant when she said that it's not possible to move people with love when you don't have any love to give. After Amy leaves, Sean tries to call Emma, but the call doesn't connect. He decides to go to the radio to tell her that he's looking for her, wherever she is. Emma doesn't listen to it. She takes a bus to go back to her hometown. After what Sean said on the radio, though, everyone listening to it decides to park their car in the street so that Emma won't be able to leave. On the bus, Emma starts listening to Sean talking about her again. He says that it doesn't matter if she always talks about herself as if she only has flaws, that she's the lowest card in the game, but without her, there isn't any game. Emma cries while listening to him and sends him a message thanking him for allowing her to pass through his world. He never hears from her again after the message. Days after Emma left, Leah is ambushed by some guys that she arrested and she's attacked. Max appears to help her out but ends up getting severely hurt and passes away in Leah's arms. His death made Sean's life even more miserable. After his passing, Sean feels numb after losing everyone he loved. Even when time goes by, he can't forget them. And the memories are a heavy weight to carry. Almost a year later, Sean has moved to the beautiful city of his dreams and seems to be doing great. He's still the host on the radio show, but now he uses it to confide his feelings to his listeners and to talk to Emma, hoping that she still listens to him. Although a long time has passed and he has moved on from his grief about losing Max and Sam, he still feels empty in the spot where Emma should occupy. He's still waiting for her. One day, there's a big confusion in the city amongst the inhabitants and he takes the blame for it. It's as if the confusion with the citizens triggers all the bad feelings in Sean. He goes home feeling lost and lonely, not sure of where he should go or what he should do. He has dinner with his mother and she says that she made a lot of food because she's expecting her 3 sons, Max, Sean, and Sam, to appear with their wives. Sean once again feels sad remembering that all his friends are gone. He only has his sick mother left with him, which is very depressing because she barely remembers him anymore. After feeling hopeless and depressed remembering the friends he lost in Emma, he goes to the radio one more time to talk to Emma. He says that there are people who will never show up again because they have their own path to follow, but that he knows where he needs to go. He says that if she's just passing through, he's going to be waiting for her at the end of the journey. It's his last attempt to tell Emma how he feels through the radio, and if she doesn't show up, he will understand that she's moved on with her life, so he has to do the same. He goes back to the place where Max proposed to Leah, a day they were all happy together. It's also the same place where he once said that he wanted to visit with his sweetheart, and that Emma heard. He looks towards the place where they had built the cardboard church for Max and Leah, and waits. There, while he's staring at the snowy mountains, the golden meadows, and the bright blue sky, Emma shows up wearing a flowing white dress. Their paths finally crossed again.